DLC at its best is a way to expand on a game's scope and story long after it was released, and at its worst is a way to trick kids into developing gambling addictions and stealing their parents' credit cards. It's become one of the primary points of contention for many older gamers about modern games, and this is because it's often seen as being a quick cash grab by developers and publishers. Today, we are going to look at some of the worst examples of DLC, content that was clearly supposed to be in the original game and should never have been partitioned off to make the game a little bit more expensive. All the entries on this list today are a stain on the publisher's reputation, but as you'll find out, they don't really care. These are my top 5 DLC that should have been free. Sonic 06 was a buggy, unplayable mess when it was released, and it has not improved with age. It was the game which single-handedly destroyed the reputation of the Sonic franchise for years, and even today many gamers think of this title when they reference 3D Sonic games. It makes sense then for such an awful game to have some pretty scammy DLC. A staple in most games is that when you beat it on the original mode, additional modes open up to play through the game again with slightly more challenge. A great example is Devil May Cry, which has several modes for increasing difficulty after the game is beat. Sonic 06 went in a different direction, and instead you have to purchase the very hard modes for £2.49 for each character. Yes, a game this bad expects you to pay more money to be able to play through it again with even more difficulty than already exists from the game-breaking glitches. It was a daft decision, and it was not always meant to be this way. Hacks of the game have revealed unused text hidden within the game's code which references that this was originally meant to be unlockable content through in-game gameplay, not as an additional purchase. You'd think Sega would have noticed the terrible ratings this game was getting and at least made it free to try and claw back some reputation with the fans, but no, and this DLC is still on the store to this very day. The Sims has a history of expanding its games, but the recent incarnations have gotten out of control. For The Sims 4, released in 2014, there are currently 7 expansion packs, 8 game packs and 15 stuff packs. When it came out, it was criticised for a lack of content, and EA has chosen to remedy that by charging for it. When this much content is being churned out, not all of it is going to be to the same standard. There is an argument that much of this content could be free, and I could fill the whole list of examples from The Sims. The lowest point, and the one that gets its place on this list, is My First Pet stuff pack. What makes this worse than all the other packs is that it came directly after the Cats and Dogs expansion pack and features a couple of new items that require you to have that expansion pack first. All of it seems as if it should have been included in the expansion and was clearly taken out in order to make a bit more money after that expansion was released. Katamari is a brilliant game series, and it's peculiar in that it's one of the few game franchises which is still unique. There really isn't anything else like it, and no one else has tried to copy the core mechanics. You play as a character pushing around a large ball, picking up everything in your path, growing bigger and bigger until you're able to swallow entire planets. It's a lovely series. When they announced the next gen port, people were obviously excited. Katamari came to the Xbox 360 after its PS2 debut would mean bigger worlds, better graphics and more levels. People couldn't wait, and they was rewarded well. It was a great game and lots of fun. That was until they found out about one thing. Originally, the game had a DLC called Extra Levels DLC. This DLC had 4 levels, which later ended up being sold separately. These levels were all included on the original disc, and all the key was doing was unlocking them, which is bad enough to start with. But these levels were imperative in being able to actually complete the game. You couldn't collect all the items in the game without them, and they were clearly not additional content, but content that had been sidelined out from the main game and sold separately. People weren't happy, especially as 3 of the achievements in the game specifically say purchase the DLC in their descriptions. Total War is a brilliant series, and I love it. Even though it has problems and suffers from various glitches and issues upon release, it's still full of exciting scenarios, battles and empire building. No matter which one you pick up, there is always fun to be found. It's a shame then that this series has too been plagued by scammy DLC. Originally, the series did additional content properly. Before we got online DLC, everything came in the form of expansions, which were massive packs of new content, maps and missions that expanded the game in every direction possible. They released these for all of their games, and they were usually very well received. It's something they still do, and they still do them well. Unfortunately, they also do smaller additional content too. Most of this is not problematic, being a few maps or characters or a faction or two. Some people would prefer them to be free, but overall they're still on the line of being acceptable additional content. What isn't really acceptable though, is selling a graphic setting as DLC. Starting in Rome 2 Total War, there is a DLC in which you have to pay for blood and gore effects. Since that game, they have done it in pretty much every Total War release since, and the fans are not happy. Looking at the review on Steam, you can see that people are mad, and there is no reason this couldn't have been included in the base game. The only given reason is so that they can make the base game a lower age rating, but that doesn't wash, as they could still release this separately but free. It's a shameless cash grab, and doesn't look good on the studio. Asura's Wrath was a decent action game released in 2012 on the PS3 and Xbox 360, and hasn't had a port or re-release since, so is mostly forgotten. It wasn't bad, and it got average to good scores from most of the reviewers, praising it for its over-the-top gameplay, cinematic style and world design that drew in Hindu and Buddhist myths. So far, so good. Unfortunately, Capcom decided to make a bizarre decision in regards to this game's DLC. Capcom have made many bizarre decisions over the years, but this stands out as one of the oddest. They decided to take the final 4 episodes of the game, which contain the true ending that is important in making the entire story make sense, and split them into a paid DLC. It's clear that these episodes were supposed to be part of the original story. They aren't a new add-on or an expansion of the original vision, they are fundamental in getting full enjoyment out of the game. They did it this way in order to make it so gamers got to the end of the game that they enjoyed and felt compelled to purchase the final chapter so they could see the real ending. It irked people back in the day, and it still does. So those are my picks of top 5 DLC that should have been free. What examples do you have that should have made it onto this list? I'm sure there are hundreds, so if you have any good ones, let me know in the comments below. Don't forget to share and subscribe if you like this video. Goodbye!